Okay, so last time we started the new topic regarding mutual exclusion and synchronization, that how we can achieve mutual exclusion and synchronization between multiple processes. Okay, and in that first we discussed principles of concurrency. As I already told you that this is one typo, and then we discussed few key terms that you need to be aware of, like what is deadlock, what is mutual exclusion, race condition, critical section, live lock, starvation. So all these terms, now you must be aware of that, because we are going to use those terms again and again. And then, though in my flow it is showing software approach first, we have considered hardware support, and we started with hardware support, how hardware support can be used, or what kind of hardware support you can have to achieve mutual exclusion. So we started with that, and in that first we discuss the simplest approach, where interrupts are disabled. So whenever a process is running, and as soon as it wants to enter into the critical section, just before entering into the critical section, interrupts will be disabled. So there is some kind of instruction that is executed which will disable the interrupts for that process. So now, till this process is in the critical section, no one can interrupt this process, and this process cannot be uh, removed from the processor. So it will complete its critical section, then after it will enable the interrupts, and now onwards it can be again removed from the processor. So there won't be any problem of mutual exclusion. But then there are certain problems with this approach, that it is going to limit the ability of the processor to interleave the processes. So basically you will lose some kind of performance, and response to the external events get delayed. And again, this is not going to work for multi-processor. This will work only on a single processor. So now there are some special machine instructions which can be used, if not the first one approach. I mean, we are not using that interrupt disabling approach. What can be used? Another kind of special machine instructions are there which can be used to achieve mutual exclusion. So there is one assumption while considering this approach. There is one assumption that at the hardware level, access to a memory location excludes any other access to that same location. So what we assume, at any particular memory location at a time, only one process can access that location. Okay, so that is our assumption here. And with that assumption, based on that assumption, we are going to discuss the further concept. And with this as a foundation, processor designers have proposed several machine instructions that can carry out two actions atomically. Okay, now there is an assumption that at a time only one process can access one particular memory area, memory region. Okay, and based on that, several machine instructions have been proposed, and out of those several, we are going to discuss two machine instructions. And this machine instructions, like reading and writing or reading and testing of a single memory location with one instruction fetch cycle. So that is the point. This machine instructions, what they do, basically they do two things atomically at that particular location. It can read that location, and it can write something on that location, or it can read and test that location. But this two operations can be performed in a single fetch cycle as a single instruction, and that is atomically. During execution of the instruction, access to the memory location is blocked for any other instruction referencing the same location. So if any other instruction trying to access the same location, it will be blocked. So there are two instructions that we are going to discuss, which are given in your book: compare and swap instruction, which is also called compare and exchange instruction, and another is exchange instruction only. So let us understand this. What is compare and swap instruction? So this is one small program for that, compare and swap, how it is implemented. This is one pointer to some word. Okay, this is test value and this is new value. So this is the memory location. This is the memory location, okay, which we are going to test. Okay, again this value, and then we are going to use this new value. So let us see what we do. First of all, what we do, whatever is current value of this word, we put it inside some variable old value, and then we compare this old value and test value. If they are same, if these two values are same, now we are going to replace the current word value by the new value, and then we will return old value. Okay, so basically this is one kind of token that you are trying to acquire. You check the token at word address. This is the address. So at this memory address, you check what is the value at this address. If it is this value, we are going to put new value at that address, and this old value will be written. And once that happens, it means that process has locked something. So it has acquired that token. That is the meaning. So let's understand. A compare is made between a memory value and a test value. If the values are the same, a swap occurs. So you can see that if old value and new test value are same, then at the address word, you will put the new value. The entire compare and swap function is carried out atomically. So this whole function, all this function, whole this, okay, code, that will be performed atomically. That will be executed atomically. It means while this is being performed, okay, that it cannot be interrupted and it will be completed as a single instruction. So though here we are putting that there are 4 lines of code, but actually internally it is a single instruction. So it is not subject to interruption as it is single instruction, because at a time at least one instruction get executed. If interruption occurs, every time interrupt is checked, once particular instruction gets executed, then only there is some interrupt cycle. There is a period where interrupt gets checked. So as this compare and swap whole code gets executed as a single instruction, there is no interruption. So that's why what is the reason behind that? So that no other process can check the same thing. No other process can try to check the same thing. At a time, only one process can do this. And another version of this function returns a Boolean value. That is true if the swap occurred, false otherwise. So similar thing can be there, but instead of returning old value, that is integer, it returns true and false. If swap occurs like this, if swap occurs, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. That is another version of this. But how this helps? The point is how this helps. Okay, how it helps to achieve mutual exclusion. So let us understand this code. So you can see that in main function, you create this pair begin. Okay, basically it is creating this many processes. So this is a pseudo code. Okay, this is not the code of any particular language. It looks like that it is C code, but it is not exactly C code. It is just a pseudo code. Okay, so basically in main function, you create multiple processes from P1 to Pn. And when this pair begin function executes this P1 to Pn processes, the main process itself getting blocked. Okay, it is suspended maybe. So now all these processes, you can see that basically it calls this function. It calls this function P. That is exactly what it does. Calling P function for process 1, calling P. So that is the idea. Now what it does. So there is an infinite loop while true. Now it executes this compare and swap, and this bold is a global variable. Bold is a global variable, and that is the memory location which is shared. So this bold is nothing but this memory location. Okay, so it's a global variable, and this is the test value, and this is the new value. So this is like the process which wants to enter into the critical section. It is trying to put 1. It is trying to put value 1 inside this variable bold, but not directly. It is doing it through compare and swap instruction. It is doing through compare and swap, because compare and swap, it is a single instruction. It cannot be interrupted. So if one process is trying to change value of bold, no other can do the same thing. So at a time, only one can try to get the lock. So you can see compare and swap, bold 0, 1 equal to 1. Okay. Now what does it mean? According to this, if it returns 1, where we are passing here bold, that is the memory location. Though we are not using pointer, I guess, is it a pointer? It is not pointer, it is just a variable, but ultimately it's a memory location. So this is memory location, this is test value, this is new value. And this compare and swap always returns old value, okay, which is currently there in this, at this memory location. So based on that, can you tell me what does this mean? Can anyone tell me what does this mean? Compare and swap, if it returns 1. Yes, anyone? I hope you guys are awakened and you are not in the sleepy mode because of your Navratri Garba, maybe. Yes, so basically when it returns 1, it means bold is already having value 1. Bold is already having value 1. That is the meaning. And if bold has value 1, it means it is already locked. The lock is already acquired. Someone has locked that. Someone has acquired that. So in that case, you can't do anything. You can't do anything. Okay. But if it is false, it means it returns 0. If this is false, it means it has returned 0. 0 means it was the old value of bold, and as it was 0, which you compare with this, you can put 1 inside bold, and you have acquired the lock now. Now you have acquired the lock, so you can enter into the critical section. So if this is false, it means you have acquired the lock and you can enter into the critical section. And as soon as you come out of this critical section, what is your first responsibility? To mark bold equal to 0. So now you release the lock. You release the lock that I am done, and you release the lock. And then you have another code maybe that you can execute. And this is the code which is executed by all the processes. All these processes execute the same code. So at a time, only one process can be there in the critical section, and that is mutual exclusion. Okay. Does this make sense? Yes. Does this make sense, guys? Now, there is a term called busy or spin waiting. Let us understand what that term means. So you can see that when compare and swap is executed and if it is equal to 1, it's a while loop. See, it's a while loop. So if it is equal to 1, this process continuously checking that, because do nothing, it means it is not doing anything. So you can also put semicolon here according to C language. If you put semicolon here, this while loop will be executed till it is returning 1. So what is happening? Continuously it is executing the same instruction, compare and swap, until unless it gets 0 value, until unless this becomes false. So the term refers to a technique in which a process can do nothing until it gets permission to enter its critical section, but continues to execute an instruction or set of instruction. In this case, it is one instruction. In some case, it can be set of instruction that taste the appropriate variable to gain entrance. So this is called busy waiting. Busy waiting. You are waiting, and while waiting, you cannot do anything. That is busy waiting or spin waiting. While waiting for bolt to become 0, you are just doing nothing, continuously checking that. So this is busy waiting. And that is a problem actually. This is a problem because your process will be doing nothing. Rather, it is just waiting. And while waiting, it is simply wasting the processor time. Exactly. So what is the problem? While it is waiting, no, the point is it can be rescheduled. I mean, for sometimes it is checking continuously. But once its time is over, if it is round robin, maybe its time is over, maybe some higher priority process comes. So based on the scheduling algorithm, based on the dispatcher mechanism, sometimes it may be removed from the processor and maybe put into the ready state. But whenever it comes to ready running state again, Again, it will check this until unless it gets this 0. That is why it is called busy waiting, which is wasting the processor time. Are you getting something? So there is another such machine instruction that is called exchange instruction, which is very similar to the previous one. The instruction exchanges the content of a register with that of a memory location. Now, instead of putting direct value or something like that, it will simply perform exchange of register and memory value. I hope you are aware of this register memory. Are you aware of register memory? Have you gone through processor subject? So basically every processor has a set of registers, maybe in terms of hundreds, we don't know. So that is processor memory. And then you have primary memory, that is RAM. So this exchange information, it has some value in register and some value at some memory location. And this exchange instruction will simply exchange it. It is not going to test anything. It is not going to test anything. This instruction will simply exchange this two value, will swap this two value. How it helps? So again, this exchange, how internally it is doing, but again, this is atomic instruction. It's a single instruction. So it creates one temporary variable, put this memory value into temporary, then put register value into memory area and put temporary value. So this is a basic swap logic. This is a basic swap logic, right? But here it looks like that there are 4 instructions, but internally it is 1 instruction. So how this helps? So same code, you can see the same code is there. The only difference is now key I equal to 1. Initially this memory location key I, sorry, this is a register location. This is a register location, you can consider that way, that it is having value 1. Bolt is a global variable. Now while true, do the exchange between key I and bolt. Key I and bolt. So whatever bolt value is there, it will be put in key I. Whatever key I value is there, it will be put in bolt. Okay. Now initially bolt is 0 and initially key I equal to 1. So whichever process executes this first, it will try to exchange this two value. And after exchanging, it will check if key I is not equal to 0. If key I is not equal to 0, it means bolt wasn't 0. If bolt was 0, this would have been a 0. But if it is not 0, it can't do anything. You can see here semicolon is there. So critical section is not inside while loop. Okay. It is not inside while loop. It is do while actually. It is do while. So do exchange while key is not 0. While key is not 0. Once key is 0, this do while will be over and you can enter into the critical section. So again, this is nothing but the same. If key I is 0, it means bolt was 0. And if bolt was 0, you have put 1 inside bolt. You have put 1 inside bolt. So you have acquired the lock and you enter the critical section. And after getting out of the critical section, you change this value of bolt equal to 0 over. So this is working in a very similar manner like compare and swap, but the idea is little different. Rather than testing anything, it will simply swap. So some kind of such instruction is always there in any processor. You will find it for such support. Now there are few advantages of this hardware approach. Applicable to any number of processes on either a single processor or multiple processors sharing main memory. So if there is a single processor architecture or multiple processor architecture, this is going to work. Why? Because assumption is there, whether it's a single processor or multiple processor, they all are sharing the same memory, same primary memory. And primary memory, as we have discussed, we assume that at a time only one process can access particular location. It is simple and therefore easy to verify. We can verify that. It can be used to support multiple critical sections. Each critical section can be defined by its own variable. Like here we have one bolt variable for this critical section. For every such critical section, you can have bolt 1, bolt 2, whatever you want. And there are few disadvantages definitely. One is busy waiting that we have discussed. It consumes processor time unnecessarily. Starvation is possible when processes leaves the critical section. When a particular process leaves the critical section and more than one process is waiting, it happens that some of the processes could indefinitely be denied access because of lower priority or whatever the reason. It always waiting. It never gets chance to acquire the lock while another process leaves that critical section. So that is possible. Another problem can be deadlock is possible in this. Just assume this. P1 executing in critical section is interrupted. Okay, some process P1 which is executing in critical section, let's say here P1, and it is interrupted. Why it is interrupted? Because there is higher priority process P2. It has come and your scheduler, your dispatcher, it schedules processes based on the priority, and P2 is the higher priority process. So it will interrupt P1 which is executing in critical section. P2 comes and it will execute in its, and it tries to enter into the critical section, but it won't be allowed because it's a critical section and P1 has already locked that critical section. So P2 will be denied to enter, and hence it will go into the busy waiting loop. So P2 is in busy waiting loop now, spin loop, spin waiting, busy waiting. But it is possible that P2 can be put back into the ready state and another process can be executed. But let us assume there are only two processes, P1 and P2, and P2 is the higher priority process. So P2 will never be put in ready state and P1 will never get next chance to execute. And if P1 never gets chance to execute, it will never release the critical section. And if it will never release the critical section, P2 will never get out of this busy waiting. So what happens? P1 is never getting chance to execute further, and P2 is also busy waiting. So as P1 is lower priority, will never be dispatched till higher priority process. So that is why deadlock happens, because neither P1 nor P2, none of them can proceed further. Both are blocked, something like that. They are busy waiting. They are not doing anything. They are blocked. This is called deadlock. Are you getting that this problem can be there if you rely only on this hardware support? Yes, are you getting this? So this hardware support that you have, that you can have, it has its own advantage, but it has its own disadvantages also. So this is all about hardware support that you can have to achieve mutual exclusion with certain advantages and certain disadvantages. Now let's go back to software approach before we actually learn the syntax, the support which is provided by OS plus programming languages. Before we learn that, let us go through this software approach. So what is software approach? Software approach, basically it is nothing but when you write your own program, you make sure that through your code itself, you try to achieve mutual exclusion without any other support. So let us understand this first idea. Just assume that we have only two processes. We have only two processes, process 0 and process 1. Okay. And what is the requirement? We want to achieve mutual exclusion between two processes. So at a time, only one process can enter into the critical section. That is what we want to achieve. So this is very simple idea. There is one turn variable which is shared between these two processes. It's a global variable which is shared between multiple processes, turn. And this turn, it contains value 0 or 1. So while turn is not equal to 0, this process is busy waiting. It can't do anything because it is not its turn. This is process 0. If turn is not 0, it can't do anything because it is not its turn. But as soon as turn becomes 0, it will enter into the critical section. And after coming out of critical section, it will say turn equal to 1. It will set turn equal to 1. Same thing is done by this process. So this is like one by one. First, I will do something, then you do, then I do, then you do, something like that. This is turn by turn. Tell me, is this approach, is this code guarantees, does that guarantee mutual exclusion? First of all, does this code guarantee mutual exclusion? Yes. Guys, are you there? Okay, currently forget about multiprocessor. Right now, let us focus only on uniprocessor. So in uniprocessor, does that guarantee? In fact, it guarantees a multiprocessor also, because what is our assumption? Even in multiprocessor, memory is same. Turn is nothing but a memory. It's a variable, so it's a memory, right? Which can be shared among all processors. So that is not a problem. Whether it is uniprocessor or multiprocessor. What do you think? Does this guarantee mutual exclusion? Yes, it guarantees mutual exclusion, right? It guarantees mutual exclusion. But then, do you think that this is a good solution? Excuse me. Or do you see any problem with this solution? Can anyone see any problem with this solution? Busy waiting. Yes, see, busy waiting, fine. That is a one thing. The problem is that this busy waiting can be very long. For an example, process 0 may need to enter in this critical section once in an hour. It needs to enter in this critical section only once in an hour. Whereas process 1 may need to enter in this critical section maybe 1,000 times in an hour. Will it be do that? Will it be able to do that? Let's say process 0, it completed its critical section and it has changed this turn equal to 1. Now process 1, it is checking turn is not equal to 1. No, but turn is 1, let's say. So this while loop will not be there and it will enter into the critical section and then it will set turn equal to 0. And then it will set turn equal to 0. But this process, it does not need to enter into the critical section for at least 1 hour next. For next 1 hour, it does not need to do that. So now as it is not entering, see, this, it is not going to check this because it need not to enter into the critical section. Okay. It will check this only when it needs to enter into the critical section after 1 hour. So for that 1 hour, this process will be hanged or it will be stopped. It will be blocked because it needs to enter critical section, but it cannot as turn is 0 and no one is setting turn equal to 1 until unless this process enters the critical section, completes that and set it equal to 1. Are you getting? Are you getting this problem? And the another problem, if one process fails, if one of this process fails, let's say you have set turn equal to 0 after executing critical section and this process has failed. So no one is going to set turn equal to 1 in future. And this process will never be able to enter into the critical section because this process has failed and no one is there to set this turn equal to 1. So that is going to block another process permanently. So these are few problems with this kind of solution. Though this solution guarantees mutual exclusion, but it has its own problem. So let us try to solve this with new kind of variable, which is a flag. This is an array of Boolean array. Okay. And it is like here, what is happening? You are giving your key to other. Because until unless someone else give you the key, you cannot enter into the critical section. Until unless this process says, okay, turn equal to 1, you cannot enter. Until unless this process says, okay, turn equal to 0, this process cannot enter into the critical section. So basically your key is not with you. Your key is with some other process. Rather than that, let us have our key with our own self. So there is a array of Boolean variables, let's say flag, and we are considering only 2 processes right now. Okay. This flag 1, process 0 checks flag 1. It is checking key of other process. It is checking key of other process. If key of other process, flag 1, if it is true, it is busy waiting. It is busy waiting. Otherwise, it will say, okay, I want to enter into the critical section, so I lock it. So flag 0 equal to true because I want to enter the critical section. And once you come out, you say, okay, I am done. So flag 0 equal to false. And similar here, before entering into the critical section, you check about the others. If other is already in the critical section, in that case, flag is 1. Flag 0 is 1 in that case. So you can't do anything. But if flag of 0 is 0, you can enter. And while entering, you just set your own flag equal to 2. That means I wish to enter into the critical section. And once you come out, you say, okay, I'm done. Are you getting this? So does this going to solve the problem that we had with the first approach? The first attempt. Is it going to solve that problem? Let us say this process, okay, it is what do you say, after critical section, this process is crashed. After setting flag 0 equal to false, this process is crashed or it is killed or whatever. Do you think that it is going to hang this? Do you think that this, because this process is permanently killed or whatever the reason, it is crashed, do you think that this process will never be able to enter into the critical section because this process has been killed? Do you think so? Let's say this process is not there. Just focus on this. After setting flag 0 equal to false, this process is crashed, terminated. Can process 1 enter into the critical section whenever it needs to? No. Why not? What this flag 0 is set to? False. What it checks? Flag 0. If it is false, it sets flag 1 equal to true. Enter critical section. Flag 1 equal to false. Again come here whenever it needs to enter. Again it comes here. Flag 0 is still false because this process is crashed after setting flag 0 equal to false. If this process has been crashed within critical section, when it was in critical section and that process was crashed, then this process will be blocked permanently because no one is there who can set flag 0 equal to false. And then because of that, this process can never execute. But if it is crashed after this statement, then definitely there is no problem. So at least up to certain extent, this code solves this problem of the previous code up to certain extent. But this is worse than the first attempt. Because this is time sharing system, okay, or even on the multiprocessor system also. Just think about this. Let's say process 0, it executes this part. It just check this while flag 1. And let's say at that time flag 1 is 0. Let's say flag 1 is 0 initially. After checking this condition, process gets switched and process 1 executes. And that is possible. That is completely possible that this process gets switched after executing this code only. And now process 1 checks flag 0, which is also 0. So this has read flag 1 equal to 0. This has read flag 0 equal to 0. Now this process 1 switch after executing this instruction and process 0 comes. So what it read in the last instruction, it read that flag 1 was 0. So now it is directly going to do this. It will set flag 0 equal to true. And then it switch and let's say process 1 comes. It is also setting flag 1 equal to true. So now next when process 0 will execute, it will execute in the critical section. Next when process 1 will execute, it is also executing the critical section. So at the same time, it is possible in particular case where these processes are executing one instruction at a time and then another process comes. If that happens, it is possible that both of these processes are executing in the same critical section. Do you think that you have achieved the Mitchell exclusion? If that happens, do you think that you have achieved the Mitchell exclusion? Are you getting this? What I am talking about? One instruction at a time. Process 0 execute this part, then switch. Process 1 execute this part, then switch. So both has read that another flag is 0. Both has read that same thing, that another flag is 0. So they can enter into the critical section. So this will be executed, flag 0 equal to true. Then switch and flag 1 will be set to true. Then switch. Then it will enter into critical section. Maybe at some time it will be switch. And this will also enter into critical section. So at a time, you can have multiple processes into the critical section, same critical section. And you can see that, in fact, this approach, this attempt is worse than the first attempt, because at least in first attempt, it guarantees the Mitchell exclusion, whereas there is no guarantee of Mitchell exclusion in this case. And there is a possibility of one case, there is possibility of some cases where Mitchell exclusion is not guaranteed. Some cases, not in all cases. One case that I just described, one instruction from one process, then one instruction from other process, again one instruction from one process. If that happens, then you can see that this code is not going to achieve Mitchell exclusion. Are you getting this? Yes. Please reply so that I think that you understand or not. Fine. So I assume that now you understand that. So you can see that this is worse than the first one. So can we improve on this? So let us see the third attempt. Okay, what we have done here, we have just shifted this statement before while. We have shifted this statement before while. Let us see whether it is helping us or not. So we have just shifted it, and it is going to guarantee Mitchell exclusion now. Let us see, even in that worst case, that one instruction at a time by one process. Let's say process 0 executes first, and it sets its own desire that I want to enter into the critical section by setting this flag equal to true. And it gets switched, and process 1 comes. It is also saying that I want to enter into the critical section. Okay, both are saying that I want to enter into the critical section. Now what this process does, it checks flag 1, yes. So it can't do anything. Then this will check flag 0, yes. So it can't do anything. So meanwhile, this solution, it guarantees the Mitchell exclusion. But if we see this thing, that one instruction at a time by one process, what kind of problem you can see here? What kind of problem if one instruction at a time from one process? Can anyone tell me? This attempt guarantees Mitchell exclusion, but it introduced new problem. Now you need to tell me what problem is introduced.
Sir, they will both be stuck in do nothing state.
Sorry?
They will both be stuck in do nothing state.
Yes, they both will stuck into the do nothing state. That is deadlock. That problem is called deadlock, because both cannot proceed further. Okay, and that idea is called lock. See, when I say one instruction at a time, this instruction by process 0, process switch, and process 1 execute this instruction, then process switch, process 0 will execute this instruction, then process switch, and then process 1 execute this thing. One instruction at a time by one process is called lockstep. That is called lockstep. Okay, and if that happens, you will see deadlock. So this attempt, though it guarantees Mitchell exclusion, but there can be a deadlock problem in one particular case. Okay, so maybe this is better than the second attempt, At least it guarantees mutual exclusion, but deadlock can be there. Deadlock can be there. So fourth attempt now. Now fourth attempt. It is just extension of the previous attempt. It is the extension of this previous attempt. Now let's see what it does. So process 0 says that I want to enter. I want to enter. It says that, and then it checks what happens to the next. What is the case of another process? What is the state of the other process? That is through flag 1. It checks that. If flag 1 is false, sorry, flag 1 is true. If flag 1 is true, what this will do? It will say, okay, flag 1 is true means process 1 also wants to enter. Process 1 also wants to enter. Okay, so let me give this turn to process 1. So what it will do? It will set its flag equal to false. And then it will wait for some time. And again, it will say, okay, I want to enter. Because it has waited for some time. And it has thought that, okay, might be the process 1 is completed. So let me try again. So this is a while loop. Same thing happens here. Process 1, it says that I want to enter, but it checks if another process, it also wants to enter. Let me give chance to that process by setting my flag equal to false. So let me see that. Let me execute this way. Let's say flag 0 equal to true and flag 1 is also true. Okay, but before this process 1 gets switched, it also checks this. What is the condition of flag 0? Okay, it is also true. So let me give some chance to that process. So flag 1 will become false. It will set its own flag equal to false and delay. Delay means it will be sleeping. So while it is sleeping, it will be removed from the processor. Next process gets the chance. So this process gets the chance. Okay, and now it is checking what is flag 1. As it has set its false, so it is false. So it can enter into the critical section. And once it comes out of critical section, it will set that flag 0 equal to false. And once this is set to false, and when this will be come out of this delay, it will say I want to enter, but before enter, it will again check flag 0, which is false now. So it can also enter into the critical section. So this guarantees mutual exclusion. This particular attempt, this code is going to achieve the mutual exclusion. But again, just try to execute these two processes, one instruction at a time. That is lockstep. What is the case now? This instruction, then this instruction, this instruction, then this instruction, then this instruction, then this instruction, then this and this. If that happens, that is called lockstep. If that happens, what problem you can see there?
No longer be mutually exclusive.
Sorry?
They will enter critical section at the same time.
Is it possible to enter into the critical section?
So they will not be mutually uniprocessor will.
No, it won't be possible to enter into the critical section for any of this process. Let us see. This is true. This is true. It is checking that another is true. Okay. So it has remembered that. Now process switch. So this has checked. Okay, another wants to enter. Now it comes here because this was true. So it comes here and it say, okay, I don't want to enter. Let others enter. Same thing this will do. Okay, let others enter. I don't want to enter. Then both will be sleeping. Let's say this process comes first after sleep, or this process comes first, whatever. But we are assuming lockstep. So let's say this comes first. I want to enter. Then this will be executed. I want to enter. Then again this will check what is flag 0, but it is true. Again this will check what is flag 1. It is true. Again this will do. Okay, let others enter. This will say, okay, let's other enter. Then both will be sleeping again. So basically, whenever they get chance, they are just inside this while loop. None of them can enter in this critical section. But the case that I have just explained, it's a lockstep. It is not going to happen every time. Maybe very rarely, but that is possible. That both processes are executing one instruction at a time. So what kind of condition is this? None of them can enter into the critical section. Both are executing this instruction in this while loop. What this case is called? What this situation is called?
Deadlock.
No, deadlock means both processes are blocked like this. Okay, this is blocking one, because flag 1 true, flag 0 true. Both are doing nothing. They can't do anything. Okay, they are blocked. They can't execute any other instruction. Here, at least they can execute instruction in this while loop continuously. They can execute all these instructions in the while loop continuously. So this situation where process can execute some situation, process can execute some instruction, but continuously it is executing same instruction without doing any fruitful work, that situation is called live lock. That situation is called live lock. Process is alive. It is executing some instruction, but not doing any fruitful work. That is called live lock. Are you getting this term? Yes. Are you getting this term?
So, sir, this delay of both the process will be same?
We assume that, yes, both are having same delay, because ultimately this is the same program actually, right? Program is same. When you see 0 and 1, it is depending on the I value that you pass here. Let's say here, whatever I value you pass, where is it? While starting this process is from main function, whatever I value you pass, accordingly this index will be used. Otherwise, program is same. So definitely delay is also same. And that is what we assume, that it is in lockstep, that exactly one instruction from one process, then one instruction from other process. That is our assumption. And this is a very rare case, but this is possible case. This is a possible case. So what we are trying to see here, in general, this is a good solution, but there is a possibility of live lock. There is one possibility of live lock when processes are in lockstep, one instruction at a time. Does this make sense? Okay. Then what is the final solution then? If all these 4 attempts are not good enough, what can be the final solution? So that is given by Decker's algorithm. Okay. Dijkstra, have you heard this term, this name, Dijkstra? Maybe in your DSA subject? Yes, that the same Dijkstra has used this Decker's algorithm to solve this mutual exclusion problem. Okay. So what is this solution? You can see very similar to the previous one, but to avoid live lock, now it is combining two things: flag value as well as turn value. Turn value, if you remember from the first attempt. Okay, so let us see this. Now there is a global variable turn and the flag array for 2 processes. Right now we are doing it for 2 processes, but it can be easily extended for any number of processes. So now let us understand this code. This is the code which will be executed by process 0, and this is the code which will be executed by process 1, which is similar. And what main does, main will set flag 0 false, flag 1 false, turn equal to 1. It can be arbitrary, it can be 0 or 1. And then it starts process 0 and process 1. So let's see process 0. Again, there is an infinite loop. First, it will do this. It sets its desire that I want to enter. Process 0 says that I want to enter. That's why it sets this flag 0 equal to true. But before entering, it will check what is the situation at other process. If flag 1 is true, and flag 1 is true as well as turn is also 1, turn is also equal to 1. It means this time it is right of other process to enter. So other process wants to enter. Flag means what? Flag is a desire. Flag, it is indicating the desire of that process to enter. And turn variable, what it indicates? It indicates the right, whose right it is to enter. So here while flag 1 means other process wants to enter, as well as it is right of that process to enter. So in that case, I should not. So in that case, I need to say flag 0 equal to false. need to set my flag equal to false. And I need to wait. I need to wait until it is my turn. So this is busy waiting. If turn equal to 1, it is busy waiting. And once this busy waiting is over, it means it is now possibly it is my turn. Then I will say flag 0 equal to true. So immediately I will say I want to enter and it is my turn. So you can see this thing, this if will be executed again and again while flag is 1. Okay. Now let's say somehow this turn has become 0. So this while will be come out, you will come out of this while and you say that I want to enter. And then this is while loop. So again it is checking flag 1. Maybe flag 1 is still 1. Let's say flag 1 is still 1 because it has set it again. But whose turn is that? Whose turn is this? Is it 1 or 0? Yes. Is it will it be 1 or 0? Are you getting this or not? Why this flag 0 equal to true? Why this instruction was executed? Because turn was not 1. Turn was not 1. That's why this flag 0 became true and you came here again. Maybe meanwhile you come here, another process again says that okay, I want to enter. Another process says that. So maybe flag 1 is true. But then you check, is it your turn? No, it is my turn. This time it is my turn. Turn is not 1. So in that case, you can simply enter into the critical section. And once you come out of the critical section, you say, okay, it is your turn now. And you say, I don't want to enter. I don't want to enter. Same thing for process 1. So there are two things. Your desire, whether you want to enter into the critical section or not. And second thing, whether it is your turn or my turn. Both need to be checked. And it handles all the problem. Mutual exclusion is achieved. Deadlock will not be there. Starvation will not be there. Do you have any question on this? Are you getting or not? If you have any question, you just want to think on it, you can take some time and think on it. And let me know if you have any question. Yes. Are you getting? Can you see whether it guarantees mutual exclusion and deadlock free solution or not? Can you see that from this code? Okay, I assume that you are getting this. Now there is very similar algorithm to this Dekker's algorithm, which is another solution. That is Peterson's algorithm, which is very similar to this. Okay. The only difference you can see here, it first of all, it says that I want to enter and it says that, okay, it is your turn. First, it will set turn equal to 1 and says that it is your turn. So I want to enter, but I say that it is your turn. So if you want to enter, you can enter. And while it is, and then it will check what is the situation, whether other process wants to enter or not. If other process wants to enter, and as I have already told you that, okay, you take a chance. So I will wait. I will wait. But when you don't want to enter, or you will say that it is my turn by setting turn equal to 0. If you say that, then I will enter into the critical section. So if any one of these is false, then I will enter into the critical section. And then flag 0, I will, after come out of this critical section, I will say, okay, I am done. Flag 0 equal to false. So this is very similar to the previous. The only thing is it is reduced code and less complex than previous code. This is Peterson's algorithm. So Peterson's algorithm correctness, if you want to verify whether this is a correct algorithm or not. So let's take one case. Consider process P0. Once it has set flag 0 to true, P1 cannot enter its critical section. See, if I say I want to enter into the critical section, and then I say it is your turn. Let's say when I say it is your turn. Okay. And if you are other process is not interested into the critical section, then what I am checking actually, turn is 1, fine, because I have set it. But if you are not interested, I will enter into the critical section. I will enter into the critical section. And when this process is in critical section, you have set turn equal to 1. Okay, remember, you have set turn equal to 1. And flag 1 currently it is false because other process is right now not interested. So I will directly enter into the critical section. But what if other process, while this is in critical section, other process comes and it wants to enter into the critical section by setting this equal to true? Doesn't matter. Because what it will do, it will set turn equal to 0 and then it will check this. It will check this. So turn is still 0. Though flag 0 and turn 0 both are 0, it cannot enter into the critical. So if one process is already in the critical section, other process cannot enter. Okay. And mutual blocking is prevented. Suppose that P0 is blocked in its while loop. Okay, P0 is blocked in its while loop. P0 in its while loop here. This means that flag 1 is true and turn equal to 1. That is the meaning. P0 can enter its critical section when either flag 1 becomes false or turn becomes 0. So now let us understand this case. If P0 is here, blocked here, it means flag 1 is true and turn equal to 1. Okay. And now, while this condition is true, what is our assumption? When P0 can enter now, if P0 wants to enter into the critical section, under which situation P0 can enter into the critical section? If either of this condition becomes false. Either of this condition becomes false, then only P0 can enter into the critical section. So now there are some exhaustive cases that we need to consider. Let's say P1 has no interest in its critical section. Okay. Let's say P1 has no interest in its critical section. If P1 has no interest in critical section, flag 1 can never be 1. So that is not the possible case because right now we are blocked here. Flag 1 is 1 and turn is also 1 that we have set. So it is not possible that you can say that P1 is not interested into the critical section because it has already set this 1. It means it is interested in critical section. If it is not interested in critical section, it will never set this flag 1 equal to false. So you will never get a chance to execute critical section. But that is not possible. As flag 1 equal to true means it is interested in critical section. So that case is not possible. P1 is waiting for its critical section. Okay, this case is also impossible. See what it says. When you are blocked in P0 here, it means P1 is interested in critical section and you are saying that, okay, it is your turn. So it is not possible that P1 is also blocked and waiting to enter into the critical section because both are conditioned, both this condition are in the favor of P1. So it is not possible that while P0 is waiting here, P1 is also blocked. It is not possible. And P1 is using its critical section repeatedly and therefore monopolizing access to it. Even this cannot happen. Suppose you are waiting here for any one of this to become false. You think that P1 is trying to access critical section again and again and never giving chance to this P0, but that is not possible because before entering again into the critical section, it has to give a chance to another process by setting turn equal to 0. So when it sets turn equal to 0, it will become on only when this process will say, okay, it is your turn. So if P0 is interested and it is waiting, P1 cannot monopolize the critical section. It cannot again and again enter into a critical section without giving chance to P0. So all these exhaustive cases are cancelled out. I mean, they are not possible, and it guarantees there is no blocking, and it guarantees mutual exclusion. Are you getting this? Are you getting this? Please ask if you have any question. So we have discussed principles of concurrency. Then we have discussed hardware support, and then we discussed today's software approach. Software approach has its own problems because this is for two processes. Maybe in multiprocessor situation, you may need to write different code. And it is bug. It is, I mean, you can say error prone code. If you do small mistake also, you may not realize that, but in certain case, it may create problem. So you cannot rely on this kind of, even though this Decker's algorithm and this Peterson's algorithm, it seems that they are correct solution, but if you do a small mistake, it can create a problem. Okay, there is a question. In Decker's, if we give turn to other process and that process gets terminated, then will we automatically get turn after some time? Okay, so what he says here, let's say P0, okay, it is enter into critical section and it says turn equal to 1, right? Or can we think, okay, fine. Let's say P0 was in critical section and it was terminated. Suppose it was terminated. So there is no one who will set turn equal to 1, isn't it? Right? So there is no one who can set turn equal to 1. So what will happen to P1? If P1 is interested in entering into the critical section, what will be the problem? Flag 1 equal to true, fine. It says I want to enter. It will check flag 0. What is the case of flag 0? What is the value of flag 0? If it was terminated within critical section, so flag 0 will never be set to false. It will always be true because no one else can set that false as it was in critical section. So that is problem. If any one process is terminated while it is in critical section, another process will never get a chance. Are you getting? That is one possibility. That is one possibility. But what if this process is terminated after critical section? What if this process is terminated after this flag 0 equal to false and before starting any other code or within this code it terminates? What will happen to P1? Let's say P1 currently fine. First time it will get this because flag 0 is false. Turn is also set to 1. So it will get a chance to enter into the critical section. But now it's a turn equal to 0. Flag 1 equal to false. And there is no one who can set turn equal to 1. There is no one who can set turn equal to 1. So definitely, even though this guarantees mutual exclusion, still it has its own problem. Still it has its own problem. So to answer your question, no, there is no one who can set turn equal to 1. There is no one who can set turn equal to 1. So that is why I am telling you, though this seems a good solution, correct solution, it may not be as good as what we want from it, right? One case you have already seen. One case you have already seen here. Because turn can never be set automatically. So whatever we see, why we discuss this first of all, if they are not going to serve our purpose, if we are not going to use these algorithms, why we discuss this? So that you get the perspective, you get the idea that if you develop such kind of solution by your own program, what kind of problems can be there. and you got it correctly that, okay, even if we use this correct situation, still there can be a problem. Still there can be a problem. Okay, there may not be problem of mutual exclusion. Mutual exclusion is achieved. There may not be problem of deadlock or starvation. Fine, but still one problem. If one process is terminated, other process may not get this, may not be able to enter into a critical section after at least one time it can enter. After that, it cannot enter. So that is why we discuss this software approach, so that you get the perspective that what kind of problems can be there if you use your own software approach, your own solution to this mutual exclusion. So hardware support has its own problems. Software approach, it may seem correct, but may not be working in certain cases, and still they are complex. And again, every process which wants to use critical section, it has to do it itself, which is not a good idea. Why process should take this burden? Why need to worry about whether I am following mutual exclusion or not? That is not the job of process. Process is there for doing some special job. It is not here to check all this, right? That is why this burden should not be given to software or the process itself. It should be taken by programming language as well as OS. And that is what we are going to discuss next. Semaphores, which is a syntax, a special syntax, which is provided by sometimes kernel and sometimes programming languages. Monitors are there, like in Java. If you have heard synchronized keyword in Java, it is nothing but monitors. Okay, message passing. These are the different ways to achieve mutual exclusion with the help of programming language or OS. This support you can get from either from OS or programming language, and they are always a better solution than any of these two. Of course, hardware support, up to certain level, hardware support is required. Whenever you use this, whenever OS provides support or programming language provides some support, hardware support may be required, but only hardware support is not going to work. So now in next lecture, we will start with semaphores. Okay. And next lecture we have on Friday, 8 o'clock. Any problem in that? Does anyone have problem with that schedule? Friday, 8 o'clock morning? Priyesh bhai, is that fine?
Yes, sir. This is fine.
Okay, fine. So Friday, 8 o'clock, we will continue with this semaphore part.